So the word of the day is shallow. So what I'm going to attempt to do for the next 10 minutes is write a joke using the word shallow. Now, I've been a comedian over 12 years. I've interviewed over 400 comedians. The name of the game with joke writing is volume. The more you write, the more chances you have to find the next great joke. But a lot of times it's like you write 20 jokes and end up keeping one. So I'm attempting to write one joke in 10 minutes, all for the sake of exercising that writing muscle. So go easy on me based on what the result may be. But let's be optimistic here. And the word of the day is shallow. On June 8th, 2022, we're going to put 10 minutes on the clock. Oh. And here we go. Feel free to write along with me during this 10-minute time, or think of tags and ideas and ways I could take this joke as well, or write your own. But now, it is time, my friends. Engage. All right, so here we go. So, the word of the day is shallow. So usually what I like to do to start off with is just brainstorming things that I associate with shallow. So it could be a shallow pool, shallow morals, shallow how is another. Like, what do you think of when you think of pool? I remember shallow pool. I hit my head as a child when the pool was too shallow. I dove in and hit my head and was like, ow, that hurt. But there's so many different things you can associate with shallow. Shallow puddle. And the first part of the joke writing exercise is really just to brainstorm, just to get as many ideas, connections, concepts out there as possible. So even shallow, there may be a word play. Shallow, which could sound like shalom. Sorry if I'm misspelling that. I'm a Goya. But we're just associating here. So shallow pool, shallow morals. Morally shallow, you're probably a jerk. High standards. Insecure. Maybe even a bully. Shallow how? What do you think of Jack Black? Movie. Maybe that reminds you of like a date night or something. You go in to see it. Maybe VHS. There are no wrong ideas at this moment. It's literally just getting out ideas onto the page. And the more you get out there, the more you can pull from to kind of start picking what you want. So, as I'm looking at it right now, shallow pool. So also you can think of, okay, what are the opposites? So shallow end of the pool, shallow end of pool. I don't know, something with the shallow end of the pool is resonating with me. So maybe what else is there? Deep end. What else do you associate with a pool? Lifeguard. So maybe there's something with a shallow lifeguard. Shallow lifeguard. That only saves the pretty people. There could be something there. Shallow end, like diving board, you associate with pool. Adult swim. Above ground pool. So above ground pool, everything is shallow. Shallow end. It's only shallow when it's an above ground pool. The deep end, off the deep end is a phrase. So it's not only like associations with words, but also maybe with certain themes or idioms, perhaps. So off the deep end is a common phrase. So what are phrases that you can associate with the word as well? Off the deep end. And there's a good website called freedictionary.com that you can search for all sorts of idioms and synonyms and things like that. So maybe on next week's, maybe I'll pull that tool up and see what we can start to come up with that way as well. Because this is still all brainstorming here in kind of the first half of it. Shallow lifeguard only saves pretty people. That really, there's something there. But there's also something to the above ground pool always being shallow because the pool was above ground. Public pool, maybe an above ground pool is like a public housing pool. Housing pool. So I grew up with an above ground pool at my dad and stepmama's place. And they had a deck around it though, so it was fancy. Diving, hit my head, maybe dive head first. How else do you dive? Cannonball. So I usually like to challenge myself to write personal jokes. What are true to me? What are always challenge comics to be like? What is unique to you that only you could write about? But in this 10-minute exercise, sometimes it's just you have a funny idea and you write on that. It's not necessarily the most personal. But for me, what's really sticking out, I mean, the shallow lifeguard, really, there's something there. And it's called a sense of humor. So follow that sixth sense. Follow that sense. Follow your instincts on this. So my instincts are kind of taking me in. There's something to shallow lifeguard, only saving pretty people. But there's also something to an above ground pool always being shallow. Only being in the shallow end. So maybe, all right, let's keep going here. All right, so in a setup punchline, we want to start structuring the joke here. So maybe it's my mom only let me kiddie pool is another one. Bathtub could be a funny type of pool. Pool the game. Pool the game as well. Another one. My mom only let me swim in the shallow end. Above ground pool. Kiddie pool. My mom only let me swim in the shallow end. Only let me swim in the shallow end. I don't know. The lifeguard one just seems to be sticking out to me more. So let's try to work that one. So right now we have a shallow lifeguard only saves pretty people. So how can we structure that into a joke that's like a setup punch? And in joke structure, you set up the audience to think in one direction, and then the punchline creates a surprising second direction, a misdirection. So let's see. Shallow lifeguard only saves pretty people. All right, so let's just say, just to personalize it, the lifeguard save pretty people. Shallow and because what do we associate with shallow? Someone who is shallow. I don't know what that means. What are other ways? How is someone shallow? They're judgmental. Isn't shallow like in Shallow How he only liked pretty women? Judge a book by its color. Oh, okay. Kiddie pool. But that could go a wrong way. I'm just trying to think of. above ground pool. Lifeguard in an above ground pool, but too shallow. Okay. So maybe I tried to date the lifeguard at my local above ground pool, but she was too shallow. Ah. Tried to date a lifeguard at my local above ground pool, but she was too shallow. Above ground pool just isn't. That's just too wordy. But for 10 minutes. I mean, we got 10 seconds left here. I tried to date. Oh, wait. I got offered a job as. All right, 10 minutes is up. Maybe it's like I got offered a job as a lifeguard. Public pool? Cece says pool is all you need, but I wanted it to assume shallow. Maybe growing. Growing up, I was offered a. Dang it. Well, 10 minutes are up. So what is it, Joel? I tried to date the lifeguard at my above ground pool, at my local above ground pool, but she was too shallow. I like that. I mean, in 10 minutes, what are you going to do? And I like that it's self-deprecating. I think a lot of times comics try to punch down. And this is something I learned from interviewing Nate Bargatze, was always make you the butt of the joke. He said whenever he made his wife the butt of the joke, that the audience would react a little hesitantly. But when he was the butt of the joke, he framed it on himself. That's when they really laughed, and that's how he started to find his voice. So for 10 minutes, I tried to date the lifeguard at my local above ground pool, but she was too shallow. I don't hate it. I don't hate it overall, for 10 minutes. But we do this every single Wednesday live on our YouTube channel at 10 a.m. So do subscribe and get notified when we do this live stream, as well as 3 others we do throughout the week. And we do this every day on our Facebook group as well, where we post a new word and comics around the world are writing new jokes together. So that's linked in the description of this video if you want to join us over there every single day. But until then, that's the end of this Right 10. Have a good day, y'all.